The Battle of Little Bighorn, known by the Lakota and other Plains Native peoples as the Battle of the Greasy Grass, and popularly referred to as Custer's Last Stand, was fought on June 25, 1876, near the Little Bighorn River in Montana. The clash involved an alliance of Lakota, Northern Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors against the 7th Cavalry Regiment of the United States Army, led by Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer. The chain of events leading to the battle began in 1876, during a time when indigenous peoples of the Great Plains were mounting the final armed resistance against the forced colonization of the American West. Before the Civil War, few settlers had moved into the vast plains, mainly due to the arid climate and strong indigenous presence. However, after the war, the rush for land in the West intensified, driven by the construction of railroads and U.S. government policies that encouraged settlement by offering land to homesteaders. Tensions escalated until a direct confrontation between Native peoples and federally backed settlers became inevitable. During the 1860s, most Native groups were forced onto government-designated reservations. Those who resisted were met with violent military campaigns or killed. The Plains tribes, however, resolved to continue resisting, maintaining their hunting traditions and defending their territories. To undermine their survival, the U.S. government promoted the mass slaughter of buffalo, a cornerstone of Plains indigenous life. Hunters were sent with the mission to exterminate the herds, both to clear the way for railroads and to force native surrender. This sparked intense outrage and led to brutal attacks by indigenous warriors on hunters, settlers, and railroad workers, regardless of age or gender. Custer, a Union Civil War veteran, arrived in the West in 1866, by which time war between the U.S. Army and the Plains tribes had already intensified. In the following years, he led several successful military campaigns, including an attack on a Cheyenne village. However, he quickly realized he was fighting a very different kind of war from the one he had fought against the Confederates. Native warriors were excellent riders, fast, and intimately familiar with the terrain. In 1868, the U.S. government signed a treaty recognizing the Black Hills, in present-day South Dakota, as Lakota Reservation territory. But in 1874, a military expedition led by Custer discovered gold in the hills. This sparked the greed of the U.S. government, which attempted to buy the region. The Lakota refused the Black Hills were sacred lands. In 1875, Custer encountered a group of Lakota warriors during a railroad survey in the northern Pacific, in the Yellowstone River Valley. There, he faced the legendary Native leaders for the first time, Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse, but it would not be their last encounter. Custer received orders to forcibly relocate all natives living outside reservation boundaries by January 31, 1876. Any group that refused would be considered hostile. Several native bands ignored this deadline and traveled to Montana to join the growing camp of Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse. Thousands of people from various tribes gathered along the Little Bighorn River. Eyewitnesses at the time said they had never seen such a large native encampment. Reports from Oglala warriors like Dogsback and others coming from reservations along the Missouri River warned that the army was approaching. The tribes then decided to keep their camps close together. There were at least 6 or 7 distinct camps, the Cheyenne to the north, the Lakota to the south, including the Hunkpapa, Brule, Miniconjou, Santee, and Oglala. The Sans Arc were on the far south. It is estimated that between 6,000 and 7,000 people had gathered, about a third of whom were warriors of fighting age. They were armed with repeating rifles such as the Winchester, Henry, and Spencer, as well as bows, arrows, and tomahawks. Before the battle, Sitting Bull performed the sacred sun dance, an ancient spiritual ritual reserved for men. He painted himself yellow, representing the sun, in search of a prophetic vision. During the ritual, flesh was cut from his arms until he bled. The dance lasted 2 full days. At the end, Sitting Bull had a vision. He saw American soldiers falling from the sky like grasshoppers, a sign of victory. However, the vision came with a warning. If anything was taken from the bodies of the dead soldiers, great misfortune would fall upon the people. Sitting Bull's previous visions had come true, which reinforced the natives' belief that they would triumph. The U.S. Army mobilized 3 columns of soldiers to encircle and force the surrender of the native forces. Among them was Custer with his 7th Cavalry Regiment. The soldiers were armed with single-shot Springfield rifles and Colt .45 revolvers. The commanders involved were General Alfred Terry, Colonel John Gibbon, and Lieutenant Colonel Custer himself. In mid-June, scouts from the Crow and Arikara tribes, who served as guides for the army, found tracks of a large native group moving toward the Little Bighorn Valley. The planned strategy was for Custer to circle around the camp and wait for reinforcements. However, upon locating the massive native camp on June 24th, Custer ignored the plan and decided to attack immediately. He divided his force of over 600 men into 4 units. A small group remained with the supply train. 2 others, led by Captain Frederick Benteen and Major Marcus Reno, were to attack from the south, preventing any escape. Custer, with 210 men, planned to attack from the north. On the morning of June 25th, Reno attacked first. Taken by surprise, the natives quickly armed themselves and counterattacked. Warriors like Dog's Head and Braveheart maneuvered around a hill and surrounded the soldiers. Soon, Crazy Horse arrived with reinforcements, boosting native morale. Reno, outnumbered and encircled, retreated, leaving at least 30 men dead before regrouping on a hill that would come to be known as Reno Hill. Meanwhile, Custer advanced north and spotted part of the camp, where women and children were located. To create a diversion and relieve pressure on Reno, he sent 2 companies westward across the river. He then moved north with the remaining 3 companies, attempting to find a crossing point. Benteen, hearing Reno's gunfire, came to his aid and the 2 groups joined forces. Anticipating another attack from the north, Crazy Horse and other leaders organized a massive counterattack. Custer, unaware that Reno had been reinforced, was caught by surprise. Groups led by White Thunder and other warriors attacked from all sides. Custer ordered his troops to form a defensive line, but the first line was quickly overrun. With the encirclement complete and under heavy pressure, the soldiers tried to retreat to higher ground but were trapped. After fierce combat, every man under Custer's command was killed. Custer himself died in battle, along with his 2 brothers, a nephew, and a brother-in-law. Subscribe now to our channel, History and History, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video about the epic events that shaped the world. Leave a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the Battle of Little Bighorn. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and share it with others who love real, unfiltered history. On our channel, history is told with truth, respect, and depth.